So my tenants just moved into one of my units, and it was a disaster. In this video, I'm going to explain to you what happened, what I did to resolve it, and in the future, what I'm going to do to prevent this from happening again. So my tenant was going to be moving in, and I'm a small landlord, and I manage 4 properties basically on my own. The issue that I've never had before is in this situation, I was going to be out of town, and the person that helps me manage was also going to be out of town. Since I was going to be using the same handyman and cleaning service that I normally use, I was thinking this was going to be no big deal. All I had to do was get the handyman in there to fix a few things, get the maids in there to make it sparkling, and get the painters in there to paint. Super easy, right? Oh, how wrong some of us new landlords can be. So let's start with the first thing that went wrong. The first thing that went wrong was before the tenant even moved in. It was the week of the move-in. I had some painters over to paint the unit. I was the last one in the unit a few days prior, and everything was fine. The painters were supposed to arrive at 8 a.m. I get a call at 9 a.m. after they had been there for 1 hour, stating that there was a window broken from the inside, but it was not them. So I ended up having to have a window company come out in an emergency and repair and replace a window, which was $400. So the first lesson for me was you can't just have contractors in your unit without you being there, because if you do, you have to accept those consequences if something goes wrong, because there's no way to prove that, they didn't break the window. However, the painting was done. So now all I had to do was have my handyman come in and fix a few sinks, and the maids come in and make the place sparkle, and it would be good to go for my tenant. So now we get to move-in day. I'm thinking I have this in the bag. I've had so many people in there to fix everything. The paint looks good, and I'm assuming that the place is just sparkling. Well, not so fast. So I get a call from my tenant upon move-in. The place is not clean. Him and his mom had taken, a napkin and put it on the floor, and there was dust and dirt all over the napkin. There was purple shampoo in the bathtub from the last tenant. And all I can think is, how could this possibly happen? My maids are always, always, always awesome. I use them for all my projects. So I call my cleaning lady, and I'm honestly shocked. Well, then she informs me that she was unable to make the job, so she sent her sister in to clean because she had to take her mom to a doctor's appointment. So this is something that if I would have been there, I would have realized the place wasn't clean. But since I just trusted my contractors, it wasn't clean. And then this is obviously a really bad first impression with my tenant. So I scheduled for them to come back out and do some cleaning the next day to kind of remedy this situation, when I get another text from my tenant saying that underneath the kitchen sink, when he turns it on, water is squirting everywhere because the hose underneath the sink wasn't properly attached. At this point, Ken and I are driving back from California, and I want to cry. Honestly, I'm like, this is seriously the worst move-in ever. I don't know why nobody, checked the sink. I don't know why anybody didn't clean the place. But really the fault lies with me because I didn't have anyone look at it. You cannot just blindly trust contractors, and this was a big lesson for me. Luckily, my tenant is very handy, and he ran to Home Depot and got some stuff to bind the hose to the sink and made it work. So now I have a tenant that moved into a dirty unit, had to get cleaners over there the next day after they moved in, and had to repair a sink and clean up water from where it squirted everywhere upon move-in to what's supposed to be this nice unit they're moving into. This is a really bad first impression. And it was a Friday that all this happened, and I had scheduled to walk through the unit with him and his mom, who's also living there, and his girlfriend to, kind of walk through and do the move-in, move-out checklist on Sunday. So I'm super nervous to go over there on Sunday and kind of face my tenants. And, I want them to know that I'm a good landlord, but I also feel really bad for what happened. So I was trying to think in my head what I was going to say to them. I had to say something. They can't think that this just happens and I'm okay with it. And what I realized is I just have to tell them the truth. I just have to tell them I was on vacation. I trusted my contractors. I shouldn't have, and I should have had somebody walk through it with them. I should have had somebody walk through the unit and double check their work, but I didn't. I let my tenants know I've used all these contractors before and I have never had an issue, but I realize I cannot do this again without oversight. I let them know that this was totally unacceptable and I apologized. This completely diffused the situation, and by the end, we were all smiling and laughing and joking around about it. I think they just appreciated that I admitted that I was a small landlord, and I also admitted that I made a mistake. Honesty with your tenants is always the best policy. Nobody wants to hear about some random excuse that you have to make. You just have to come clean with everything. So what did I learn? I learned this can't happen again. And you can't trust other people without verifying their work, no matter how many times you've used them. This is my sole responsibility as a landlord, and I just didn't do it, and that's unacceptable. And also, this cost me a lot of money. I had to pay $400 for a broken window, and I had to pay for the maids to come back out and clean again. And lastly, if my tenant wasn't so handy, I would have had to have a handyman come out and repair the sink. So that was about a $600 cost to me as a small landlord. And as you small landlords know, that's a lot of money. This could have all been avoided if I had somebody there to manage the property when I wasn't there. And I normally do have somebody, but like I had told you, she was out of town. But that's not acceptable either. I have to have a third backup if there's a situation where we're both out of town. Somebody has to be managing the move-in. Somebody has to be managing your tenants. And if you're somebody that is out of state or is thinking about purchasing a property out of state, just understand all of these things can happen too, because I basically was an out-of-state landlord for this move-in. So it does make things more challenging. Don't do what I do and make sure that you're on top of your tenants and your move-ins moving forward.